came to the UK from Ghana at the age of 18. At the time that I came, I had to learn how to manage the finance my parents were giving me. And in 1997 when I came, the internet was not what it is at the moment. So literally if I wanted to find out anything about money, I had to look in books, I had to go to a library, I had to read magazines. And a magazine that I read very diligently was Pride magazine. And I liked Pride because there was a finance section in there and you actually wrote the finance section.
Okay.
So literally I'll buy Pride every single month and I'll diligently read your finance section,
Wow.
get a journal out, write notes, and literally apply that to my finances. And literally all my financial education in terms of how I manage money, now that I'm even working, has all come from you. So
that's amazing.
yes, so I mean it's like a decade afterwards, I thought let me come back and just say thank you.
That is such a heartwarming story because you write these articles in magazines and you don't know who's reading them and you don't know if it's actually touching anyone's lives or making any difference. So to hear a story like that is really heartwarming. Well, I was born in the UK.
Okay.
But at the age of 8 months, I went back to Ghana. My parents took me back to Ghana. I grew up there. So it feels like I was born in Ghana. So I'm really Ghanaian. And I went to boarding school in Achimota. And then I came back to the UK at the age of 18. And that's when I started, settling in the UK and looking for a career, etc., etc. So deep down, I feel Ghanaian. Even though I've been here now for many, many years, I'm a proper Ghanaian. I used to actually work at a pizza place, and a gentleman would come in and serve him pizzas, and we got talking, etc. And one day I asked him what he did for a living, and his answer to me was really interesting. He said, "I make people rich."
Wow.
And I was like, "What? You pardon?" And he said, "Yeah, that's what I do. I make people rich." So I said, "How?" He said, "Well, why don't you come into my office one Saturday and I'll show you a little bit about what I do." So I went into his office and he was a financial planner. And he showed me some ideas on how he works with people, manages their finances, etc. And I was totally intrigued. And I decided, if possible, that's what I'd like to do. So I decided to pursue that career. And that's what led me into it. It was really by luck, to be honest.
Wow.
Really.
Okay.
I mean, what I studied in school had very little bearing on what I do today.
Okay.
But I think more important than having an education background that fitted with it was to have an enthusiasm for the subject.
Okay.
And I think that's what made me progress in this particular field. I was absolutely terrified of leaving Lloyds. I had a really good career there. I had a real security blanket with pensions and a company car and all those nice, warm, fuzzy things that make you feel important and secure. Giving that all up to go self-employed was a big decision. But I'd always wanted to be independent. When I was at Lloyds, I was what's called a tied advisor. So I could only advise on the products that Lloyds Bank gave me. To become independent gives you access to the whole market. And that was really important to me and my clients. I wanted to be independent so I could actually give them independent financial advice, use all the products that were out there to give them the best possible solution. So that was the key driver for me leaving Lloyds to set up on my own. Initially, it was very difficult. It involved a substantial amount of investment, a huge amount of self-belief. Mm-hmm. Luckily for me, I had a very charismatic business partner whose name is Terry Croft. Mm-hmm. And we G'd each other on, we encouraged each other, motivated each other. If I was feeling down, I'd lean on him and vice versa.
Wow.
And we started the company and started building it slowly, organically. Thankfully it worked, because sometimes these things don't, but thankfully it worked. Through commitment and hard work, we've got a nice, successful company today.
You took a huge risk, a huge gamble, leaving Lloyds. Was it something innate that made you think that, I can actually be successful at this? Was there something?
Yes, stupidity.
Really?
Well, you might call it that.
Wow.
You might call it that. But just, just self-belief, really.
Self-belief.
Self-belief that in my previous careers, whatever I'd done, I'd made a success of it. So why not go out there and do it on your own? Why do you need a safety net? Why do I need the great big backing of a huge organization behind me? If you can do it on your own, and you believe you can, go out there and do it.
How do you go out there and start something new or start something that hasn't been done before? What advice would you give to
I would suggest, and I think this is what helped me, I stuck to what I knew and
Wow.
I stay stuck with it.
Okay.
What a lot of people do is they try different things, that have 4 or 5 different paths, hoping they all work, and they're juggling loads and loads of balls. I just had one. I put all my eggs into the Sterling and Law basket. I had nothing else.
Wow.
I put everything into it. And if you do that and you concentrate on one thing, you're more likely to make a success of it than if you have loads of different things going on, and trying, juggling all over the place. It's much better to just stick with one thing.
Okay. So my following question is, let's say you're someone who has a lot of interest in different fields. How do you narrow down on that one thing that you decide that, okay, this is what I'm going to pursue?
It's very difficult. If you've got lots of avenues, I think you'd need to do some soul searching.
Okay.
So sit down with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
put it all on paper,
Mm-hmm.
and think about what's important in each of those categories.
Okay.
So for example, if you want to be financially successful and you're interested in 5 or 6 different fields, narrow it down. Which 2 of those would be the most financially successful? Let's say you've now narrowed it down to 2 things. Of those 2 things, which of those 2 will take the least amount of financial investment, for example? Now you've got one thing, and you can concentrate on that one thing.
Okay.
And once that one thing is up and running, you can start branching into other things.
So what are some of your top tips on sound financial planning and managing finances that you think everyone needs to know about?
Okay, that's a very good question. Very good question. I think one of my favorite principles of financial planning is to always build on a solid foundation.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is, if you're in debt, for example, and you're trying to save money, you're building a house on the sand,
Okay.
essentially.
Okay.
So the first thing you need to do is make sure you get out of debt. When I say debt, I mean credit card debt, loans, personal loans, student loans, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mortgages are different, because a mortgage is an investment in a
Okay.
sense. But any short-term debt needs to be wiped out first. Once you've done that, then establish where you are and build on that and start saving. I think it's all about saving.
Okay. If someone was trying to save and they're having difficulties in saving, what would you say they can do to obviously get over that difficulty?
Okay, the first thing you need to do is you need to know where you are financially.
Okay.
So a budget planner, an income and expenditure analysis of what's coming in, what's going out is very, very important. So I ask my clients before they see me to complete an income and expenditure analysis, so we can actually see where they are. We can see how much money is coming in every month versus how much money is going out. If you're positive, there's a big surplus, then you're in a strong position to save. If there's a negative, then you need to find out what to do to change that from being a negative. So for example, it could be something as fundamental as you need to get a better job, or you need to ask for a pay rise. But you need to actually know where you stand first. So once you actually know this is where I stand, then you can actually plan from there.
Okay. I want to find out what you meant by a regular review strategy.
Okay, I think what's important is, if you came to see me today and we put some plans in place based on your circumstances today, that's all very well and good. But in 2 years' time, in 3 years' time, your circumstances could have completely changed.
Okay.
For example, somebody, you could have had a child, or you could have got married, you could have changed jobs, etc. So regular review strategy is important. What I mean by that is re-establish where you are
Okay.
at that point in time, and reassess what your goals are and change things accordingly. Okay, Okay, I'd say there are three sides to it. The first one is obviously I read the papers, I listen to the news, I know what's going on. I take an active interest in knowing on what's going on in the financial world. So that's prerequisite, and I think you'd expect that.
Yeah.
Second, very important point is I meet so many new clients with different issues, different problems, and I learn from them. So people will come and see me and they'll say to me, Akwasi, these are my circumstances, can you help me? And I'll take inspiration from them, and sometimes that manifests itself in one of my articles. The third area would be the fact that I work with some very clever people. So Sterling & Law is not just me, there are 20 of us at the moment, all sorts of different advisors with different backgrounds, different experience, different client bases. We meet once a month and I pick up ideas from them, what they're experiencing, the kinds of clients they're seeing, etc. So all those points help me to actually put these things on paper and write my article. I think there's a lot of pressure on young people nowadays. Your parents, for example, would have bought a property in their 20s, most likely. I mean, that's next to impossible nowadays.
Yeah.
So I think first thing people need to do is shift their goalposts.
Okay.
Buying a property in your 20s without bank of mum and dad, or even in your 30s, is potentially unrealistic.
Okay.
So shift those goalposts.
Okay.
Start looking at purchasing a property maybe in your late 30s or your early 40s.
Okay.
However, in order to do that, you need to plan. And you need to plan early.
Okay.
So I would suggest for someone in their 20s, they should start putting money aside on a regular basis. And there's lots of putting money aside. There's your pension, etc., etc. But that's the only way to do it.
Okay.
Put money aside, have a goal, have a strategy, put money aside for a number of years, and then by the time you're in your mid-30s, early 40s perhaps, you'll have a deposit to be able to buy your first property. When you're younger, it's very, very difficult to visualize yourself as a little old lady living on a pension.
Yeah.
You want the money here and now, you want to enjoy it, etc. But a pension is a very good investment. First of all, it's very long term, so you can take more risk with it and you can get good returns if it performs well. And secondly, there are so many tax breaks that you get for putting money into pensions. So it's one of the key things. If you're going to save money or invest, putting money into a pension is very important. What is important is not to overcommit yourself with how much you put into a pension. So if your contributions to your pension are pulling you down and stopping you from enjoying yourself, then you need to review that. So I would say yes, pensions are very, very good, but live for today as well. I think the problem a lot of people have is compatibility with finances. You might have someone who's really prudent, loves to save, is very, very sparse with what they spend. Get married to someone who's just totally frivolous about marriage. That's a recipe for disaster.
Okay.
Because if you get someone who really cares about money, who is married to someone who doesn't, there's going to be conflict. So financial compatibility is very important.
Wow, that is deep. Financial not just compatibility in terms of I see you, I like you, let's get married, but financial compatibility.
Financial compatibility.
Wow.
And this is not the kind of thing you're going to discuss when you're dating.
No.
You usually find out that you're compatible after you're married, and at that point, it might be, could be a nasty shock or too late. So financial compatibility. Now, if you're financially incompatible, there are solutions. One of the solutions I would suggest, rightly or wrongly, so if you've got someone who's a spendthrift and likes to throw money around, and you've got someone who's really frugal, it's important to have separate finances. If you have a joint account, it's not going to work, because whoever's really frugal and good with money is going to be very upset when they look at their bank account and see that there's, it's all been spent, at the pub or whatever. So having two separate accounts is the best way to work when two people are incompatible financially. If you're compatible, then that's the perfect scenario. You both have the same objectives, If you're both spendthrifts, you're obviously going to end up broke. But you'll both be broke together, and you'll be very happy being broke because you don't care. But if you're both savers, you both can actually pull your resources together and save, etc. But yes, I think if you're incompatible, have separate accounts.
I was going to ask you as well, so which kind of person needs a financial planner? Because when you think about financial planning, you kind of think of very wealthy individuals, very sort of like corporate clients. But since meeting you, one of the things I've realized is that everybody can benefit from a financial planner, because one of the things I say is that even in schools, because I work as a teacher, we don't teach students how to manage finances. No one ever sat me down and said to me, Angela, you need to do X, Y, Z with finances. I actually learned from reading your publications. So which kind of person, if someone was thinking about getting a financial planner, which kind of person lends themselves to getting a financial planner?
To be honest, absolutely everyone needs a financial advisor. Okay. I'd say every working person, because if you're a student or you're unemployed, there's not much a financial advisor can do for you. But if you've got an income and you've got outgoings, you've got expenses, you can structure your finances in such a way to make them effective, long-term, short-term, etc. So I would say everyone. And there is a preconception that to have a financial advisor, you need to be rich. Not at all. Okay. Not at all. So I deal with all sorts of clientele. So I've got people in their early 20s who've just started working, who've just finished university. They want some advice on how to save, how to manage their affairs, how to pay off their debts, right up to people who have retired, have a pension pot and want to know what to do with it. Later on in life, I've got people who are, getting close to the end of their lives and they want to do estate planning and they want to manage their tax affairs. So we deal with all sorts of people, a whole manner of people. But I would say, never think you're too young or too poor to speak to a financial advisor.
You're very well built. Yeah. No, you're very well built, and it's your skin is flawless.
Oh.
And so I was kind of thinking you must exercise. It's maybe your approach to diet. So if you can share a bit of those things.
Yeah, I've always loved exercise. I mean, as a young kid, I used to run. I was a sprinter. I used to do the 100 and 200 meters. And then when I became too old for that, I just worked out at a gym. So lifting weights and all that sort of thing. And it's become part of my routine. Okay. So I wake up in the morning. First thing I do is I go to the gym.
Wow.
Luckily, I work really close to the gym. So I get the gym out the way, and I do that every single day. And I watch what I eat. I don't drink much. Okay. I watch what I eat, and it works.
So are you into more portion control, or are there particular things that you eat and things that you don't eat?
No, I just try to manage the quantity
that you eat
of food that I eat. Yes.
Okay. So that's the secret.
Yes. One of the great things about growing up in Ghana was the people I grew up with. Everyone seemed to be ambitious. Everyone was very serious about their education. And I was influenced by that. And it just radiated this sort of ambitious quality. I mean, some of the people I grew up with are now architects and doctors and, right at the top of their profession. And I got a lot of inspiration from the people that I went to school with, my friends, etc. So I'd say that would be, for me, the biggest thing that I got out of growing up in Ghana.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. But I think what I've learned from you today is that we need to be very careful who we journey along life with, because that's going to make a huge impact on who we become. Exactly. That's a very important point. Yes. So thank you very much for sharing that. So Mr. Akwasi Duodu, we've come to the end of the interview. I just want to say thank you so much. For me, you've made this girl's dream come true.
Oh, wow.
To think that, I read about you and read your publications in 1997. You've contributed so much to my life in terms of my approach to finances, and over a decade later to actually sit here and talk to you, and not just in your office, but actually invited me into your home. I mean, what a privilege, what an honor, and I am so grateful. So thank you so much. God richly bless you and make you successful in every single thing that you set your hands to do. I wish you the best success in all that you do, and thank you so much. I am so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. I've really enjoyed this interview today, actually. It's amazing how much you enjoy talking about yourself. But you've made it very easy, you've made it very entertaining. So thanks so much for coming. It's been a pleasure.
Hmm.